Welcome to episode 87 of the podcast Celebrating Differences. Today, we'll be talking about supporting the SandwYch generation, and notice we spelled it with a Y because the company SandwYch, founded by Laine, is working to support the SandwYch generation. Remember, Celebrating Differences is an initiative of We Are All One, or WAAO, Inc. Laine, it's so good to see you finally. We've been back and forth on email, and so how are you today?
Thank you. Doing good. We are finally below 100 degrees, and it feels like a cold front, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I was actually out riding a trike about 30 minutes ago.
Okay. So is it a low to the ground or a tall one?
I ride typically a low to the ground recumbent, but my wife had an issue and I had to take her the car so I could bring the trike back. So I'm up on a big upright trike, but it does have a motor. So, hey, that works.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I always watch those people zoom by me and think, how do they go so fast? And then remember, oh yeah, they might have a motor.
Yeah, electric. Hey, how about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Amy, what year were you born? This is just totally for context.
Oh, really? So, 73. So I am 50.
73. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You obviously don't look it, so that's a good thing.
Good.
Where were you born, Amy?
Born in Kansas City, and my family moved here in the 80s.
Okay, so you were still a child going to school.
Yeah. I've been here longer than I've been anywhere. So, left for school and then grad school, but came back. I grew up in Georgetown. It had 16,000 people when we moved there, if you can imagine. And I remember when there was, what was the last thing? Even La Margarita wasn't there. So from 79 to where we lived, it was complete darkness. And you could get a little catnap in.
Okay.
Yep. And then came back in the late 90s and have been here ever since.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I
got here in 89.
Okay.
So, yep.
I wonder if our paths ever crossed.
I would be surprised. By that time I was 44, working in a different world than you do. And so I would be a little bit surprised unless you were very active in the city. I was active in lots of stuff with the city. But so grew up in Georgetown. What'd you get your undergraduate degree in?
What did I get it in? Psychology.
Psychology, and where was that?
Yeah, A&M.
A&M.
So it didn't go that far, but
no, it's not. I was there yesterday.
Oh, well, congratulations. It's a great place to go.
Yeah. We're working on a project here that has interested the architecture department, so they use us as a tool to train their students. So this year we've got 15 junior architecture students working on a project for us. So.
Oh, isn't that fun whenever you can bring a real world problem into the classroom and watch them come up with solutions that, in our training we would say, oh, that would never work, that wouldn't work, that wouldn't work. And then they they shine a light on it that maybe we didn't think about before. So I bet that's fun.
So did you work between A&M and your graduate work, or did you go straight to graduate school?
I spent just a little bit of time back in Austin. I was getting my nursing home administrator's license at the time before I went to grad school. And I don't know what it's like now, but at the time you had to do 1,000 hours, and you kind of rotated. I know that's 6 months
Yeah.
of minimal pay. And so I really feel for the people that still have to do that today in many of the healthcare fields.
Yes.
It's that rite of passage, but at the same time, it's a lot of time
It is.
that you feel like you're schlepping it. But you learn a lot as well. And then I went to North Texas, and they have a gerontology program. And so I ended up getting a master's in gerontology, sitting for my test for a skilled nursing shortly after, and then worked in an association management firm for a few years, maybe 5, 7, I'm not sure. And then went and got a master's in technology commercialization. And that's at UT. At the time, it really didn't have a home. So it was sitting between, it was one of Kuznetsky's ideas and concepts, and it was just trying to get its legs to have a home. It was between engineering and the business school. After I left, it ended up rolling into the business school, and I believe it's still available today. Yep.
Okay.
And that was
Not,
in 2001.
all right. So not a traditional education path.
That's true. My first one was, because I was out for 6 months, so not near enough to have real world experience, if you
Okay.
will. A little bit more advanced in the training, in the sense that I had done my hours, I front loaded my hours versus the other way around that typically happens. When you have a little bit of experience, you bring something different to the table.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is the way it is today, but I can definitely feel for the master's programs or the MBA programs that require experience before you get in, that 5, 7 years minimum, because you're a more dynamic player in your cohort. You're less reliant on theory and more reliant on how the world really functions.
How the world works. Yeah.
Yeah.
One, why gerontology?
Yeah. Okay. So I think people gravitate to either kids or older people, just in their makeup. There's no rhyme or reason. It could be because a neighbor, it could be because you like babies. I was one of those people that really liked my neighbors and found myself learning how to garden in their yard. And I think in the evenings, my parents would find me out in their yard and just having chats. And I would say maybe that's why. I don't really have a reason. I think that would be a better question for mom and dad.
Okay, but you moved early enough. Did you move away from your grandparents?
Oh, yeah. So, uh, yes, I did move away from my grandparents. So, I mean, we left Texas in the early 80s, and mom and my dad's parents were already gone. And so my mom's parents were in rural Missouri. Going through college, I was close to my grandparents, and a spring break, I was visiting, and my grandfather passed while we were there. Nothing like taking the boyfriend to your grandparents for spring break, and then them having a real world experience with you. So that was one, and then my grandmother and I, we tried to stay close. It's not always easy when you're living your life in college and grad school, but we did. So, and she passed in 2018, just before I got married. I slept my wedding dress up to the hospital because she happened to be in the hospital at the time, and tried it on. We have pictures together, and those were special moments.
You're very comfortable with older people.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. I get that. I'm not sure I get the technology part.
Oh, huh. Okay.
What's
So,
that step like?
like, how did that transition?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see, I'll try to bring it full circle. I started working for an association management firm. Well, prior to that, I worked with AARP, and I'm not sure what they call them now, but maybe it's a work study or something. But I did, during one session, I did that here in Austin, and then moved when I was in Denton. I did it at the regional office in Dallas. I'm not even sure if they still have a regional office in Dallas. Um, and the person that I was working with had Texas. No, she didn't have Texas. Texas was by itself, but she had Kansas, Oklahoma, and a few other states. And so I went with her, working on policy for a semester. And so after that, you're like, okay, so still, I'm trying to see the parallels, right? So that led me to work in association management. From association management, I really wanted to get back into some of the technology pieces, and and I am bringing those full circle with clients today. We do a lot of we do a lot of tech development for
Okay.
them. And we have a team of people that we've worked with for several years, and they're fantastic. And then when I started SandwYch, there was this piece to bring it together and make connections that you can't always make by picking up the phone. Zoom has definitely helped. Telehealth has definitely helped.
What got you interested in sandwich, the concept of the sandwich generation? And
Yeah.
why don't you express what you think that is?
SandwYch generation is where an individual is caring for a younger generation as well as an older generation. Um, it could be neighbors, friends, family. Typically, it's family, but it definitely does not have to be. Um, I am married and married into children, so I don't directly have kids,
Okay.
but I would not discount my nieces and nephews as someone that I would not hesitate to start taking care of if I needed to. So I don't think you're limited when when you make reference to the sandwich generation. Um, anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're using, sandwich as a play, and the why for you.
Yeah. Sandwich with a Y. I like it. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a cute logo, and we'll look at your website in a little bit and talk about what it is you're presenting to the world.
Got it. Yep.
Okay.
It's interesting because some people absolutely love it, and other people have it makes me think of a sandwich shop. And I go, you know what? As long as it gets you talking, I'm fine with it. Either way, as long
You
as you're
remembered
talking
it,
about it.
didn't you? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's what a logo is supposed to do.
yep.
So I love this splash page, by the way. I love the where you land when you go to sandwich.net.
Great.
That the picture is just, oh yeah, I get it. Um, I'm really there. So, what is it on the site that you want to look at?
So, what is it that we're
What would
portraying to the world? Well, being a caregiver or thinking about being a caregiver is a tough job. And we don't always think that that is our role. Many people don't resonate with the term caregiver. They don't always resonate with care partner. But they find themselves in a situation where they are doing duties alongside someone that they didn't expect. And that is hard. And so our message is you're not alone. You don't have to do it alone. You can rely on experts at a very equitable price point to to set the foundation to make sure that you're powerful. And powerful to us means you have the tools and the resources that you need to make decisions that are best for you and the person that you're caring for.
And yeah, but that is power.
Yeah, totally.
I've got the power to make the decisions that are necessary to get the job done. Sure.
That's right. That's right. And we often give that power away. I mean, one way you give your power away is by not doing your own advanced directives, not communicating those advanced directives. So we put in place tools and a space for you to share those questions, concerns, and that journey in a non-confrontational way. And you're with a social worker the whole time.
Okay.
You get to read on your own, you get to watch videos on your own, and then any of those questions that really have you scratching your head or uncomfortable about sharing them, you get a social worker that sits with you to, ask some of those probing questions for you to think a little differently, write them down on your own, and then it becomes your guidebook that you get to share with whomever you want to.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to make a little aside here. My wife passed away in 2013, and no, I was sort of her caregiver for but it was very quickly, so it was days and weeks. But when I got to the hospital that morning, they called me into the hospital, and I got to the hospital that morning. They said she's on a ventilator. Her pH has dropped. It's not going to come back. What do you want us to do? And my son, the nurse practitioner, was there with me. And I said, with that pH, I'm a chemical engineer, so pH I get, with that pH, what's going to happen? He says, she can't survive. So I turned to the nurse and said, what are my choices? She said, you can tell us when to remove the ventilator. And I said, well, here's the paper that she signed that said what she wanted, and was able to put that on the table and say, does that change your answer? She said, no. Tell us when you'd like to remove the ventilator. So my son and I had some time with her. They removed the ventilator, and 4.5, 5 minutes later, she flatlined. And but to have that piece of paper and to put it on the counter and say that's what she wanted. So I'm assuming you do that with your clients. Do you call them clients? What do you call them?
Yeah, they're clients for us.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. Having, the experience that you had and you knew where the paperwork was is incredibly valuable. It gave you that sense of I'm able to bring something to the table. And that is the ideal situation. There are times that you don't have that, and if you don't even have the conversation, then you feel like you've given up your power because you don't know what to do. And I would say 9 times out of 10, people want what they want to. They want to honor the wishes of the other person.
Yes.
But without that, even that conversation can make it completely gut-wrenching. And I don't want to leave anybody I love in a gut-wrenching place. And there's a lot more that goes into it, as you know, right? There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of area that that makes decisions hard to make. And not all families get along. Not all families get a nurse practitioner like you have. So you're very fortunate.
I recognize that, and it's cool because my son and his wife are both nurse practitioners. One of them's psychiatric and one is geriatric. So I've got it all,
Man, you hit the long ball.
Yeah. So when I'm out playing on the web and I see SandwYch, what should I be looking at? give me some pointers as to where I should go. And as we're going through, I want you to talk about it. I saw one place where you said, it's $67 or something like that. Let's talk about what that means. What's the short term? What's the long term?
Yeah. So there's two phases to it. Our first one, so if you want to navigate to other places, you can go to learn more. And the foundation for this is just a kind of level set conversation. And you can do this alone, you can do it with somebody, you can do it in our program that's called Guided Group. Exactly. And then you
And it
squeeze down.
says learn more.
There you go. That's exactly right. So what we do is we try to level set the conversation, and there it's a um, six small short readings. There's a quiz at the beginning, and quiz is kind of, that sounds horrible, right? But just a get you thinking about questionnaire, if you will, and all of that kind of reiterates itself so that then you can have dynamic conversations with the social worker. And the social worker is there for you. You get up to 6 hours with the social worker, which is invaluable for $79,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And they're going to help you navigate through any of the questions that you have on the page and then in your own experience. This is going to, they're not legal documents, they're thoughtful documents to get you to get you thinking about what you might want to do. So it's so wonderful. We have a behavioral analyst that works with us, and she calls it the like a hurricane, the top of the cone and the bottom of the cone of all the things that you might be thinking of, meaning, if you're super high level and, over time, you can be as healthy as you are. It looks like this. And if you need 100% support 24/7, what does it look like? And so the cone of possibility, I think, is what she calls it.
Okay.
But it's really great that it kind of frames your reference. And since we in Texas understand hurricanes, it really helps us. Where are we in the eye? And it's, it's a good way to phrase it, because we'll visit with people and they'll say, I'll just have somebody else take care of me. Well, that's easy, but it's not kind.
Yeah.
So we go through that 6 series, and each step you're welcome to skip, but we have it in 3 different ways. Again, the quizzes or questionnaires, the short videos, or the reading materials, because we all learn differently.
Yes, we do.
Yep. And so it's meant to, you shouldn't feel bad for skipping something, but it gives you an opportunity to circle back if you need a refinement. Yep. And then after guided group, you have the option to stay with us. If you would like a social worker to continue to work with you, you are welcome to continue on with Christy. We also have a behavioral analyst that helps with behavior issues that can help you. It is after guided group and it's after you're a member, but we have other support team members that can support your journey.
I'd like that you've got a financial primer here.
Yeah, that's hard, right?
It is. I mean,
we don't realize
in today's
how much
world.
Yeah, and just like that cone of possibilities, it's a moving target. We were working with a client not too long ago who was really interested in hiring their own person. And there's, if that's what's for their family, that's perfect. But understanding what that means to do so was kind of an eye opener.
So where should I go from here?
From there, you know what? You sign up. So we don't have a ton of stuff on the forward-facing site. It talks about the different lessons. We can go through that if
It
you
does,
want to.
yes.
the things that people don't recognize, the easiest things to talk about are the legal documents, because that's what we think about often. We don't often think about behavior and how in an illness behavior changes. And dementia is a perfect example where behavior changes over time, and it is it's not always the person, it is the disease, and understanding how to reframe discussion, questions, and options when having a conversation with somebody with dementia that you have already seen behavior change.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
after the same sentence 6 or 7 times in a row, it begins to get difficult for me to deal with that. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And definitely those loved ones just feel so frustrated
Yeah.
when to you they look absolutely fine. And but there are things that are not the same, for
Yeah.
sure. And so that's what we help with. Just recognizing that this is a normal part of the disease, and having conversations and asking for tips and resources that
Good.
can make it easier. So none of this is technology based, which you might have asked about. You're like, I
Yeah.
don't understand. It's not technology. You're right. It's not. Our technology piece is coming. We are in development. We spent all of 2022 working with 1,300 caregivers to really understand some of the needs and some of the pressures. And that is going to be deployed, I would say, by early January of next year, so 2024. And we have nurse practitioners, not your son or daughter-in-law, but maybe. We have nurse practitioners, physicians, social workers that have all provided insight, as well as the caregivers that I mentioned earlier, so that we can provide a robust solution that will help you through transitions from a caregiver's point of view.
Looking at your site,
Yep.
I am assuming that most of your clients are female. And most of the people that you have on your staff seem to be female, or the pictures that you have on your screen seem to be female as well.
That's an excellent point. We do have more females than males, but we're not, we don't care if you're a male or a female. It's more females that are
Like your
reaching out to
team
us.
here. Like your team.
That's right. That's right.
When I think of it, and I grew up in rural Louisiana, so I'm an old white man, And when I think of the caregiver, I think it falls on the female probably more often than not. And so that would be the target client, I would assume. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I think that if when we were doing our avatar, if you will, and thinking about who we would sell to, more often than not, you are exactly right. It's a 47-year-old female that is raising children and starting to take care of parents. About a third of the time, they are long distance, and they are struggling to identify resources and recognize, what can I do to keep the person that I love as independent as they want to be, where they want to be at that first step, and how do I get my arms around all those options, if you will. And so that's what Christy does. She starts to explore that with you, and help you identify what that might look like. In theory, we would like it to happen before you join us, but that is not always the case, right? We don't want making a decision in a crisis.
Yes.
Is never a fun experience. But we also recognize that doesn't always happen. So And even though you see more aging people on our video and in our images on our website, we do work with parents with children with disabilities.
Oh, okay.
So
Congratulations.
that is Cindy's expertise. She works with a lot of autistic families that to get into a state system for support can take, I'll just use Texas as as an example. It could take up to 17 years to get support from the state if that's where you're going. And so how to navigate that is a really big challenge. And parents are just trying to figure it out, right? Just like our care partners, they're just trying to figure it out. And most likely it's in a crisis situation.
Yeah, and we don't make good decisions in crisis.
We don't. And what we really don't want is we we don't want a we don't want to regret, right? As a human, very rarely does anybody say, I don't mind regretting something. You make the best decision that you can, and with the information that you have at the time, we can help you make better decisions if you plan a little bit earlier.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit earlier.
Okay, so I've dropped the website now, but it's really fun to dig through your website. I love to dig through and see what people think are important on their websites.
From the
And
developer standpoint,
huh?
I said from the developer standpoint.
No, that's one of the jobs I used to have, but it's always fun to see what you feel is important. And I think you are aware that the way I got in touch with you is through someone you've helped who's living through the sandwich generation. I won't use her name and everything, but she's a friend. And she said, you have got to talk to Amy Laine. And she said, she's doing such great work. And this woman has her mother living with her as well as her children.
Yep.
And so, wow, same household. Is that the easier way than remote? Probably, because they have a chance to interact frequently, and we get to see her mother frequently. But it's got to be tough to have that whole spread of the three generations, and I think she's got three kids, so it's wow.
Yeah, but I would say whenever you have a multi-generational family, I'll use my mom and my mom, dad, and sister's family live about 30 minutes apart from each other, not very far. And having that closeness, I wouldn't say it's a multi-generational family living under one roof, like your example, but man, that's powerful. And the relationships that they bond, my mom is 77, and if she watches this and I've got her age wrong, I'm going to be in trouble. But anyway, so they would much prefer to be with my mom than they would be Aunt Amy.
Okay.
Just because they are so close and they have such a great relationship. Slumber parties are not unheard of when school's out for multiple days. So they really enjoy each other's company. So from the caregiver's standpoint, yes, it can be very challenging, especially when a new diagnosis and a quick onset happens. That can be very challenging, and you have to have conversations about what that looks like for your multi-generational family. But the relationships that you can build from it are also, man, you can't beat those.
And my father died in an automobile crash, so there was none of the question. But he had gotten a pacemaker put in before, so we knew it was coming. But Mom needed help, at the end, went in a hospice and all that kind of thing. And luckily, my sister had the time and the space in her life that she just moved in with her and was
Yeah.
able to stay with her. My sister didn't have children at the time, but it was an opportunity for her to be there for mom. And I live, 5 hours by plane away, so it's there's so many options. It's diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then to your point, everybody, I mean, what your neighbor's situation will look completely different than yours, and
yeah.
yet your proximity together is right there. Um, and so you're exactly right. What did you do? Did you just have conversations on the phone?
Had conversations on the phone. Traveled as often as I could to be there, and it was. She came out of the hospital and right before Thanksgiving, we had the whole family together at Thanksgiving at her place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all scattered back out and left my sister there. We had hospice in, and she died on December the 2nd. So it
Mm.
wasn't a long time. It wasn't the 4.5 years or whatever the number is. But
Yep, the typical.
if it had gone much longer than that, the question is, okay, how are we going to support my sister?
Yep,
And how are we going to
yep,
make that happen? Yeah.
yep. It sounds like you have a pretty open family in
It's
conversation.
interesting. Yeah. It's interesting family. And yeah, someday we'll talk that story. But
Okay.
right now I've got two boys with wives and three children each. One lives in Virginia outside of Washington, D.C., and one lives in northern Connecticut. So,
Okay.
so they're not here to support me if I need it. Okay. But, I've got the nurse practitioners over there. Oh, by the way, they have a 16-year-old son who is autistic and may never be independent. So they have to
Wow.
look at these discussions, which is fun that they're in the business. So they
Mm-hmm.
have to, make sure that they're prepared. And that's one of my things is, who am I going to leave my money to? I think I know. It's not a lot, but it should help. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you should, it doesn't, um, your estate is more than just the dollar. Um, there's a lot more things. There's sentimental things, there's memories, there's a whole lot more than just the dollar that sits behind it. I know that that's appreciated, but you know, there's a reason why you've kept something on your shelf for a while, and there's a story that makes you smile,
Yeah.
and keeping that and understanding what it's all about is can be equally as special.
Okay. So we've spent 40 minutes talking about what you do to make the world better for the rest of us, Amy. What do you do to make your life better for you?
Oh, um, so I'm not very good at this yet, but I'm working on it. And I am a work in progress. So,
We all are.
yeah, that's fair. Recognizing that we're a work in progress, I think, is helpful. I really like getting outside and being with nature. And I don't think I ever felt that way until a couple years ago when COVID hit. Um,
Ah,
I recognized that being outside was great, but until it felt like it was no longer a choice, um, or a limited choice, if you will. I live in a high rise that has four walls. Just to throw something away or go to the grocery store, you had to put on a mask before you even got to the grocery store. Just to get to your car might be a better example. You put on a mask, and I thought, oof, I have to get outside. And my husband, he was like, "You want to sell?" And I'm like, "Yep, let's get out of here."
let's go.
And so I was ready to hightail it out of downtown Austin and choose another place that had some grass. Um, we ended up sticking it out, and it's probably for good. But that how to take care of Amy is um, when you're ready to meet. Hopefully, the weather will be nice enough that we can go biking or something that doesn't keep me in the four walls.
Okay. Okay.
What about
That's,
you?
uh, this is part of what I do for me. Is
Okay.
I talk to people because I find people just delightful generally, and the whole. I ran across a picture of a blue-footed booby. Have you ever seen a blue-footed booby? It's a bird.
No.
It's an Arctic type of bird, looks like a big seagull, but it's literally got blue feet.
Okay.
And, I ran across that picture, and I think the caption in my mind is, if you don't think diversity is the grounding of the cosmos, you haven't been paying attention.
Mm.
And we live and enjoy and celebrate the diversity of birds and animals, and then we fight against diversity of humans. What's
Yeah,
that?
that's a good point.
So
That's a
that's
great
part
point.
of what we're doing is um, this company, this podcast is part of We Are All One, and it's We Are All One is a nonprofit to foster community, and that's the vision is let's be curious instead of judgmental. So that's why I said, hey, Amy, would you like to do this? Would you like to talk about differences?
No, you're great. Thank you. I know that I listened to a few of them, and there was one that I think you were out, like you were visiting a location. I couldn't quite tell, but it sounded like it.
We've done a couple remotes. Yeah, we just carry a recorder around with us and talk to people, and we've done some interesting ones. Yeah.
How often?
Well,
Like
we
a
were doing it one
pace?
a week, and then COVID ran all over us, and so and then we started back into that, and then we got lazy again. But that's where we're headed right now is back to one a week, and I think we'll get there. I've ramped up again and started talking to people. It's amazing how many people don't want to talk.
Oh, really?
They don't want to talk and be recorded. They love to talk, but not be recorded.
Not be recorded. Okay.
So
Well, to each his own, right?
to each his own. And thank you so much, Amy Laine.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate your time.
so we need to look for good things coming from SandwYch.
Yes, we've got more coming down the pike, and yep, we keep evolving.
All right, and this is not the only podcast you've done.
No, it is not the only podcast I've done.
I found you out there. I went looking. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I gave some new material.
All right. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye bye.
I always love talking with strong women, and that's one of the strongest one I know. So hope you liked it. And if you did, subscribe down below, click on the like button, and we'll be doing many more of these.